So let me just make a tweak because I haven't tweeted this yet, but we're bonus streaming today, as it turns out. Alright, so may the bonus stream begin. So let me just go ahead and start by catching everyone up with how the system works. It actually took me a little while to remember how it worked because I had an indent bug and I got in here and started debugging it, and the code was kind of unruly and nasty. And it's actually probably like the longest sort of single operation function. It was anyway the longest single operation function in all of 4coder. I had probably longer functions for like the update. Like I'm guessing app step and the Windows platform layer loop function might be longer, maybe. Um, Definitely the app step is longer, but this was a super long function. And to give you an idea of just how long it was, I went ahead and compressed some of it out because I found ways to, just make it a little better here and there. But this was the function, and now it kind of almost fits in one screen, which is a lot better. And then the first thing it does is, I lied, that is not the main function. Here is the first function. It totally fits in one screen. And then it had this thing here and this thing here weren't pulled out as separate functions, which I did recently to help me to wrap my head around the whole problem better. But basically what it does... Oh, before I explain what it does, so the reason I want to get into that is, up until now I've always assumed that I preferred big long functions, but there was one thing that came out of making it breaking up these little things for no reason, and what I got out of that was that it's easier to organize what local variables are in scope now, because, and this is something that is probably peculiar to me, because a lot of people maybe don't care about this as much, but I have a hard time getting over the fact of, like, when I see a variable being declared, and if it's like I've started to switch to, like, whenever I'm declaring new variables, I enter a new scope, even if it's not, like, even though I have declare anywhere, I just sort of do that, because when I'm like reading the code and I see a variable and like this code down here doesn't follow that rule. It has like asserts and then declarations, which wouldn't be allowed. But the point is, if I see the variables getting declared, then it just, I don't know, it throws me off, and then I get worried about which variables are which. And sometimes you have old variables that were like for a different path your code was going down and didn't clean them out entirely, and so on. So what I did to clean it up was I had this long chunk of code that just went on, and I identified important chunks. I was like, that's what this thing does, that's what this part does, and so on. And even though I didn't compress it out, like this function here might actually be useful in the future, and who knows, this one might be useful too. But what I did get out of sort of pulling those little things out, they're not that small, but pulling those separate parts out into functions, even though they're only getting called once in the whole source tree. This is the only spot where they show up so far. The thing I got out of it was it was able to help me rescope everything. So I just copy a chunk of code into a function. I think I've shown this before on stream, but it starts off with you name a function and you don't give it any parameters, and you just copy a chunk of code in there, and then you add in the parameters you need to make it compile, and you try to pick the right parameters that you're passing, like a sort of representative set of the data you actually need to do that, and you work out what do I need to return. So you've got, here's the results of making a batch, here are the indent marks, which is this big chunk of code in this function. All it's really doing is just generating this little array here, right? And boiling it out like that helps me to figure out what are the inputs and outputs at this point, and boil out the variables that don't mean anything. So that's why I did that. Just a quick small lesson from earlier today about me actually, for the first time ever since I started trying to go totally like absolutely not abstracting anything that doesn't need to be abstracted. This is the first time I've put in a function that's only getting called once and feel like there's a good reason for that. In the past, I've done it in a few places and then ended up taking it out because I disliked it, but I think this is the first time where there's a reason, even if I do end up taking it out, there's a good reason why it should be there for now, so that it helps me to keep the local variables like in the right order and things like that. Hopefully that made some sense. Now, the way the system works is to do an auto tab operation, you have to give it some information. The important information, the most important information is what view you're operating on, the start and end position that you want to auto tab, and those can be that's specified in characters, and then some indent options, which is bundled into a struct because it gets passed through to a few other functions, like right here. And I think this will end up taking all of it soon too. Because in theory, what I could actually do is I could actually not pass it here, because make batch from indent marks, it's about indent marks, so you might imagine it needs indent options, but yeah, I could argue that I don't actually need that there. But I'm not sure what the best way to do that is. But anyway, as of now, it's split across these different things, so that it comes bundled in. And that's like stuff like how long is a tab, what to do with an empty file. Like, I don't know if anyone's noticed in 4coder, but if you take a range, whoops, that wasn't control. If you take a range and you hit indent on it, then you get like the blank lines are there's no white space on them. So if I hit end here and home, there's no other characters there, right? If I turn on the show white space, you can see there's no white space there. But then if I go like this and go shift tab, now it does put white space on blank lines. So there's an option to turn that on and off, and whether you're doing tabbing a region or tabbing a line, it turns them on and off, and that's all customizable. That's just the way my custom setup is. But anyways, that's what the options carries. And then these other two things, the system and the models, those are just pointers to like the system functions is like, if I think that's there for, well, actually, okay, it's apparently there for file do white batch edit. I'm curious about what it actually is. What exactly does system get used for? Okay, so it goes into those two. Pre-edit maintenance. What do you use system for? Okay, so it needs that for the ability to cancel jobs is the important thing it needs to be able to do, actually. That makes sense. What about this other one that used system? File edit cursor fix. Why would this ever need system? View measure wraps. Why would that need system? Ah, that does not need system. Okay, so let me take care of that real quick before I actually do any auto tab stuff, because that kind of bugs me. And after this, what I should do is check and see if the functions that it shows up in, so this one doesn't need system. So that function just got really simple. That's awesome. Okay, 1607 is no longer the correct line number, but it's around here somewhere. 4738. No system pointer. 4743. No system pointer. 4951. No system pointer. 22.7. No null pointer. Yeah, system is passed as a parameter to these no matter what, so there's nothing to eliminate in commands. Okay, now back to the topic at hand. Wait a minute. There we go. Cool. Okay. So back to the file view. Alright, so the way the auto indent works, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to describe that. Auto tab, there it is. So it calls getLine indentation marks, which, well, okay. So the first thing it does is it converts the start and end position into line start and line end. And line end is exclusive. That's not the final. That's not the last line. That's not first line, last line. That's the line where you start and then the line where you end, and you don't do the line where you end, right? So the way to do that is I take the start and end position, I convert them both to lines, add one to the line end. Hey Casey, yeah, I got a 4coder hat back in Christmas, or for Christmas or something like that. Actually, this one is a little bit more recent, but yes. So let's see. By the way, is it dark? It looks like it's starting to get dark. Okay, doesn't look too dark. So, we get the line start and line end, and then we call this thing here, which basically takes some memory and fills it out with all of the amounts of indent that each line in that range is going to need, basically, right? And then that array gets passed to here, which figures out the actual like turns that into arrays of spaces that then gets passed to the actual batch edit command, right? So it's a three-step process. First, we make an array that says for each line, like if I want to auto indent everything from here to here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So it's an array of 5 integers, and then it'll just end up filling each of those with 4, like 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, because each of them needs 4 spaces, basically. And then it passes that to here, which this part is not the complicated part. That there is how you determine all of the rules of indenting. Then here it turns the array of numbers into an actual edit that can be performed with like amounts of spaces, or if you prefer tabs, the tab option thing it'll generate tabs or whatever. And then finally it down here executes that edit that it generated. So our job today is simply to go to the getLine indentation marks function, which is the most complicated one, and really get into figuring out a good way to do it. So right now what I've done to make it better than what I had is I've gone, other than just cleaning this up a bit, and I put comments in here so that I could like remind myself what everything does right now while I'm learning it, but I probably take those back out because now they're starting to annoy me. The point is, let me run this real quick because this is not the most recent 4coder. Here's the most recent 4coder. If I go to the auto tab test file, I've added some new stuff that it hasn't tested in the past. And a lot of this actually already worked. If I auto tab a whole block at once, it usually does a better job than if you try to do one line at a time, or the older one did. So, but if you do the whole block, it sort of shows you the best it can ever do. It can't ever do better than that by doing one line at a time. All that can ever happen is it like screws up because it starts the wrong position or something. The point is, in the past, if I single indented this right here, it would get messed up. So let me go back and just like block indent that. And also like the comments are fixed. They were a little messed up in the past, but now that works and that works. But if I come in here and single line indent, like first of all, if I press enter there, you can see it now lines up with the right spot there. And if I single line indent that, it lines up correctly. And I can single line indent each of these and they work as well. So that's all better. The only thing that is not great that I'd like to improve now is you can see whenever it's got something like that and with these ifs here, it doesn't do a great job of lining that up. It is consistent now, so like I could do and then it'll put this here and I can do even more stuff, right? And that'll line everything up in a particular way that looks like, at least as far as I've been able to figure out so far testing, it just always works out to line up the way you'd expect. But or at least it doesn't, what I mean to say, it doesn't affect things inside there, right? The things inside there continue to work, and this all lines up on the same spot, kind of no matter what you do. But what doesn't happen, what I'd like it to do, is I'd like it to just line up with a parenthesis, right? So when you're in braces, there's some kind of amount of indent rule, right? So if you have if you're inside of a brace, that increases the indent amount by 4. And then like if you have an uncompleted statement, that increases, that's like a temporary increase by 4. And that's like all there is, and then parentheses and square brackets just follow the same rule as braces, that they increase by 4 as well. And it doesn't even like bother to make sure that those match or anything, right? So you could replace this with this, and I imagine you'd get the exact same results because they all get treated the exact same way. So what I would like to do now is say that braces and square brackets will still work the same way, but parentheses should get should make a sort of auto anchor. So whenever you're inside of a parenthesis, until you see the matching closed parenthesis or some other close that doesn't match, you have a magic anchor position that you always go to instead of whatever you would have done according to the current rule, right? So it's like an extra rule on top of whatever exists. Because what exists works, it's just I want to add another thing that overrides what exists in some cases. So now I'm going to undo everything, see if we can get it to crash. And by that what I mean is I'm hoping to catch bugs today too, but I haven't found any yet. Okay. Yes, please close. Alright, so I think the first step. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention. All I did to really make that better, the only substantive change I made to the code was I backed it up. So it used to just go to um, the first line that had any tokens before the current line, right? So if I wanted to indent this, it just looks here and uses that as its rule. To figure, or like as a guiding point to figure out how much indentation to do. Now it goes back until it finds a bracket that's either an open or close bracket, and then it goes to the beginning of that line. This seems to be a better rule because going for finding a bracket first ensures usually that you are on a line which you're on like a line that represents the beginning or end of a statement, so that you get the right alignment rule, rather than being like, oh, the line you looked at happened to be halfway through a statement, so the alignment was wrong because of the temporary increase when you're halfway through a statement. So that seems to have fixed a lot of stuff, but I want to get the parenthesis alignment thing to happen too, at least in monospace. So the way it'll work in the end is there would be, you would just sort of have format rule, where a format rule is basically like you say on each line where the line starts, and it's no longer an amount of spaces that determines that. It's just, here's the starting point, where to start rendering the text for this line. Ignore your leading spaces, render the first real character here, right? And then you can align it even in a proportional font. But short of that, since I don't have text formatting available right now, I'll just align it for monospace fonts using, which is why I'm in a monospace font right now, by the way, but I'll align it for monospace fonts using amounts of spaces. So that's the plan. Let me check again. It still feels like it's getting really dark. I'll just turn the light on now so that I can stop checking. And there we go. Okay. So, yes. So the first thing I need to do is everywhere where I'm using the parentheses like brackets, I need to stop doing that. Semicolon, bracket open, brace open, semicolon. Why is there not, oh, there's parenthesis open. Brace, close. That's a really weird rule. What? Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but that's kind of weird. Sometimes I get the impression when I'm looking at my code that I'm like, I didn't finish writing this, did I? Because that looked like I had a weird extra break in there, and I don't know why this is lined up so weird, but yeah, it's weird. Okay. Anyway, so parentheses now should be all messed up, right? But all we have to do is right here, we have this thing where this indent is the thing that gets written into this array. So what I'm going to add is sort of this concept of like, if in parens group, or actually it'll be more like if paren nesting is greater than 0, or if it's equal to 0, do this, else indent marks line I equals paren well, I just discovered an issue, but I'm going to ignore it for now, because we can fix it once it comes up later. Paren anchor indent. Okay. So, I just invented these new variables that I need to introduce to the system. So, but where does current? I don't know where. I feel like this should go wherever current indent is, and that what there should be is like a struct, because I feel like someday this is going to be a really important concept. So it's like parse indent or indent parse state. right? And so you've got your current indent, and you've got your parent nest, or what was it called? Parent nesting, and you've got your parent anchor indent, right? So then where do I have current indent? I'm going to replace that with the whole parse state. We'll just call that indent, and I'll initialize it to 0. And now we can track down compile errors to fix things where those variables are different. You know what's interesting is OBS is totally affecting my build time, because that's normally more like 1.7. At least it has been today. Interesting. Yeah, so I've been debating with myself for a while whether I want to turn this into a little helper function, because I don't like the fact that it's a fairly complex function that returns a lot of information. And what I should do is just switch to returning a struct. That's what I should actually do, but I don't feel like changing that everywhere right now. I gotta do it eventually. Alright. So when I do find hard start, yeah, I want to change that to having a struct hard start result. Okay, that's going to break just a ton of stuff. Okay, that's less than I thought. I can admit that that's less than I thought. Alright, so is the old indent rule. Not letting me do what I want to do. Am I in the middle of two edits? Did I stop one and make it, or like stop in the middle of one to make another? I think I did. Paste next. Actually, yeah, I want to change that. I just like the idea of flowing this all through this indent better, because I don't know, just sits with me a little bit better when it's that easy to do it that way anyway. I don't see why not. Alright, some more of these nonsensical things. Yeah, so what here we want is another Cool. So, let me just check that everything still basically works. It should right now, right? Except parentheses are messed up, which is fine. These ones just happen to be doing the right thing, which is kind of funny. I wonder how that, oh yeah, so there will be issues as soon as we have things like how are the brackets still working? Oh, okay, so that'll work for now, but it'll get messed up later. Okay. Alright. So let me try to kill all this leading space again. Ba-boom. Ba-boom. Boom. Boom. Ba-boom. 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 Alright, so right now the base rule doesn't even work super well because that... How on earth did it even get that right? It should have come back to here. Oh man, is it going all the way to the beginning? What's it doing? How did it do that? Okay, 1 second. I don't understand how that even worked. So we're gonna put a breakpoint in here, and we're gonna watch the first token, or the first, well, indent when I do this. Alright, so we got a while, which is good. That's what it should be. If does a loop until it finds a brace. How has he not found a brace right away? Oh, it's going to a bracket. So does that mean it's always basically going back to the first one? Yeah, that's what it looks like it's doing. Well, I mean, I can make that. I don't want it to do that implicitly. If I want to, I can just switch it to doing that explicitly by telling it to do the line indentation marks from the first line and then not using all of them. So I'd rather make that braces, not brackets. Should use the word square bracket in my next lecture so that I don't make that mistake once in a while again. That's bitten me a few times. Alright, let's see if it actually works. I was assuming this whole time that it all just worked, but maybe it's all not working at all. Ah, that's more like it. Actually, that doesn't make much sense either. Okay. First token I get is a brace open. Then it'll go back. It didn't go back at all. Oh, the first thing it gets is a brace open. Okay, that's fine. And that means it's starting right here. Current indent. Char position 43. Oh. That's the wrong thing. That should be... Okay. That should be the indent position. Okay, let's see if that does any better. Okay, so it starts on a brace open. Now, I do want to add another rule. It says if I'm indenting I need you to go back at least one token always, basically, because if the first line that I'm indenting already has a brace on it, then we're always going to assume that it's correct and start there. And I should actually never assume that a token I'm trying to indent is correct. Because now this one will happen to work, I think. Yeah. No, it didn't. It gave that one +4, actually. Okay, let's look at that again. Okay. So it's going to go with that token as its starting point. Indent, so current indent is 0. Token, so it gets that token again as our starting point. Oh, right, this code here always assumes that that first token is outside, is not in the first round of indentation, I think. Yeah. Which raises an interesting question about how the beginning of the file would work, but I'll get to that later. I want to just see, while we're in here, if we can fix some of these things. So we always want to do minus minus token, and then we want to do well, let's do it this way. Do all this if the token does not equal the first token already. Okay, so we won't take that one. That means we're going to go back until we found, okay. So now we found the one, and this was something that I thought should be an issue earlier, and it wasn't. So let's see if that worked. That looks good. Now I have a suspicion that this defined down here should be messing with stuff, and I was a little confused before when it wasn't. So let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, it still isn't. And I'm not sure how that's possible. So, let's take a look at it. What happens if I indent here? Seems like that should definitely not work. So we go back one, let's brace close, so we exit. This is the line we're starting on. Token is PP define. No way shift there. That's fine. Okay, so this is a real token. The token we get is the identifier. So we consume that first token without passing it through the system, which I can't totally remember why that happens. I think it's like we don't have a previous token yet, so it has a different rule, and that turns out to be all I ever did for the other no previous token rule. Something like this. And then we don't do this yet because this token start. And what does all this do? This applies. Okay, so this actually. Okay, so the next line start. The reason that's happening is because next line start is set initially to the first line we actually care about, right? No. No, that's not the case at all. It sets a line I. No, 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 no. Okay, so line start, line I, line. I see. So that and that never actually write. So the token we're starting from happens to be before this line, but we don't really think about what line it's on in any way at all. Okay. So we know what our previous token is, and all this stuff in here must not update the current token or the token. Well, it can't update the current indent or any of the other indent state stuff, right? It might read from it, but if it were to update it, then you would be saying you update stuff, yeah, according to a condition that is yeah, okay, so it looks like this only updates this indent. So this is kind of where we compute basically the extra, the actual indent amount, and we use current indent and other infos to compute it, basically. But we don't edit the indent state until down here, which happens for every token. Okay. So we read another token. Current indent increases to 4. We read another token. We read another token. We read another token. Current indent decreases back to 0. We read the next token. And okay, so the next line start is there, so we say, alright, we've come to the next line. We're working on the first line now, so the next line start needs to be updated. And then we go, what kind of token do we have previously? Don't care about that. Don't care about any of that, so this indent should turn out to be 0. Okay. So that's what I would have expected. So when I do just that line, we get a 0. is this a case where if I start here and do 2 lines, it suddenly works? Okay, I see what's going on here. So the reason one line doesn't work is the same reason other things didn't used to work, but with the one line versus the large chunk thing. It's because it's looking here and saying, oh, 0 is the current level of indentation, and it sees a brace to increase that, and then it sees another one to decrease that. But we don't have the same problem when you start higher up, because then it zooms all the way to this brace, right? And starting from that brace, it computes the right amounts all the way through here, and this doesn't actually confuse it then. So the only thing left to do is to say, if I find a brace that's in the body of a preprocessor, ignore those braces. So if token flags, this should be if not token flags and cpp t flag pp body. We don't want anything in the pp body, and I need another parent there. Da-do. Do-do-do. Do-do. Hey-hey. Do-do. Ha-ha. Do. 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 Those are not so correct. Yes, so why did that go wrong? That should be there. So let's back that up and take a look. I'm guessing that the reason that went wrong is if I go increase this by 1. Interesting. What if I do this? Right, okay, so that's right. So that's just, it's parentheses don't do anything. And then, that's it. So it sees that this is aligned here. Right, so here's an open brace, right? That's where it's going to start. When I say indent this line, when I tell it to indent just this line, right, which is, oh, I forget how to do just this line. Control tab does multiple lines. How have I been doing just this line? Is it just like that? Yeah, I guess so. So I tell it to do just this line. It sees that, and then it sees the open brace. If I put my mark before that, then when it looks backwards, it doesn't stop until this brace here, and then it gets the right position, which is that. Right, so that works. But if I try to do the indent, and I let it find this brace first, now the issue is it sees that brace, and that brace tells it to increase the indent level another step because it went and found that brace, but then this first token here. So this is another rule I thought I might need, which is if I find that I'm inside of, like if I come to the beginning of this line and I find that I come along, I need to scan through between where I started and the brace that I found and see if there are any closed parentheses, closed brackets, or closed braces in there, and if so, I need to go back further until I find the matching whatever somewhere else and then use that line, right? Because if I started from here, I would get it right. So that'll be the next rule I need to add. If once I pick my starting line, I need to scan that line and see if there are any unmatched closes, and then I need to go find the matching open and start there instead. Okay, so it's going back until it finds a brace, and then Should I just take the line that I'm on now and scan it? Or should I, so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to take the line again down here. So let's scan it here. Um, So how about we name another token um, brace token, and I want to scan between me and the brace. I don't think that things after the brace would have any effect, so I'm going to assume that that's okay. Or actually what I'll do is I'll say, before we affect the token, let's have a start token and a brace token. And then I'll do token equals start token down here. And we'll do another one of those right here. And we'll do that while the token is less than the brace token. So we're going to scan the token forward. And if or switch token type. So if it equals the parenthesis close, I'm going to do these as separate cases. Parenthesis close, bracket, close, or brace close. Then we're going to do some stuff, and then we'll set there's like a missing brace in there, isn't there? Yeah, okay. Maybe it backspaced it. Okay. And then what we'll have is if or int close parent close bracket int close brace. Okay, and then what we'll say is if now what should I do if while I'm looking for okay, I know what I'll do. We'll include up here nesting level equals 0, and then token equals start token if close parent equals 0. Wait a minute, what if is that good? Would line up. It's just the fact that, right, okay, we're good. So if close parent equals 0 and close bracket equals 0 and close brace equals 0, we can do this. Wait. Oh, there we go. So if we find any of those types, we put that into the int, then we get out of the loop. Then, in our switch over here, if we see that nothing showed up, then that'll still be a 0. We can just give it the start token, and that's the end of the day. If, on the other hand, one of these showed up, I can tell by checking the token types. Very cool. Now, if I found a parenthesis close, now what I want to do is token equals we don't need a nesting level, I know what we'll do. Seek match matching seek what's a good name for it? Seek matching matching token backwards. Parenthesis bracket parenthesis brace seek matching token backwards. Seek matching token backwards needs the token stack, the starting token, the open type, and close type. Alright, so the way this wants to work is we start with a nesting level equals 0, and then while the, or for the token still greater than the first token, increase the token, decrease the token, and at each step, if the token we're looking at flags, and we're going to make sure we don't look at preprocessor stuff still, because that could be wrong, I think. CPP T flag PP body. Like, it'd be really weird to have unmatched anything in a preprocessor, but it's not impossible, and so you should ignore them, just in case. And then if the token's type is the close type, right, then the nesting level increases. Else, if the token type is the open type, if the nesting level equals 0, we have our result, which we'll do in a minute. Otherwise, the nesting level decreases. And so here we want to do break return token. So we start with our whatever starting token it is, we check it. If it's the close that we need to find, then we use it. If it's not the close that we need to find, then we keep going and check and see if it's an open type. And then no, back it up. It's confusing because close is we're going backwards. So if it's closed type, okay, if it's closed type, we increase the level because we're going backwards. We're looking for the open that matches this close. So if it's closed, then the next open we see is the wrong one. If we see the open and we don't have any nesting level left, then we found the open that we needed. If we did have nesting levels, then that open matched a different close that we saw earlier, not the one we were looking for. That makes sense. Okay, and then we return that token. I was wondering when I would finally find the limit of how far you can push this. Okay. There we go. So now, if we find a close that we need to find, then, or that we hope not to find, but we need to find if it's there, then we try to find the matching open. We set the token to that matching open. Yes, and then, once all that is done, we can go ahead and get rid of these now that that has cleared up. Finally, we'll do this one last time. We'll take... What if the line I'm starting... Just going forever. Yeah, I gotta keep doing that, basically. So once that's done, um, yeah, so we're gonna just keep doing this, actually. There we go. So the idea is we find the new token, then we check, is this line going to work for us, right? So we go back up here, we use the token we've got now. So if any of these happen, we've got a new token, we start from there, go to the beginning of its line, blah, 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 set the current indent over again, saying here's where we're going to start actually, and then, oh, let's check the start token we're at, up for this line. Let's take the brace token where we, where we matched, and let's go backwards and see if we can find anything that's going to screw us up. And if we find something again on this line, it seems like it would start to get hard, but you could imagine, I can imagine the layout that would happen. I feel like that would only ever run once, this loop, but it's here in case someone's got like a weird, like they compact their code in a weird way, like I don't know, a switch or something, and they've got the braces in a different way or stuff, right? So that feels pretty good to me, because that'll just keep going, and worst case it goes all the way back to the beginning, but otherwise maybe it finds a good place to start, and usually it finds one not too far away. Let's see if that works. Okay. Okay. Alright, so that's correct. Now what about if I do you are indented, and then you by yourself? Oh yeah, that's the right spot. So you see, is what it happened there is it went to here, and then it found the close. Hopefully it came back to this open here, and then started from there to actually do the lex. So let's walk through it to make sure that that's actually what happens. Alright, so we get a starting token, we find a brace pretty soon, yep, because the first thing would be an open brace, and then we go and say, alright, let's check all of these things. Anything there? Oh, we found something. Found something. Looks like it's a parenthesis. That's correct. We found a closed parenthesis. So then we come back in here, and now we search backwards for a while. Eventually we should increase the nesting level, there it is, and then later we'll decrease the nesting level 1. There it is, and then we'll finally escape with the nesting level equal to 0. There we go. So now we have this token here, which is an closed parenthesis. No, which is an open parenthesis, which, it said closed because it hadn't returned yet. We were in debugger weirdness land. Okay. Okay, now did we find a safe starting position? No. So then it goes ahead again using the new token that we just set, and it gets the current indent again, which is now 4. Was 4 before, but it's 4 again. But this time we are at the parenthesis, the open parenthesis, and so what happens before that? We don't see anything bad in the tokens before there, because all we saw was an if, so we're going to go ahead and start there and Then the start token is this control flow token. We found a safe starting position, and we go. Awesome. That seems like a pretty cool system. That seems pretty good. So let me make sure the whole thing works. Yes. Let's see if... Now, if I don't do this one first... Right, okay, so that's cool. That actually found its spot without this one finding its spot. So I can do this one and it'll find its spot. Now, if I did that one, it wouldn't find its spot because this is incorrect. It'll come to here, but it assumes this is correct. And it was actually incorrect. So the whole game here is hoping to find a spot that's actually correct, right? But it looks like the old problem was, even though it found a spot that was correct, it was not understand. There was more space there than it understood. Okay, that's correct. Now if I do a new line there, that's correct. There we go. There we go. Okay, so let's deal with this. I want that to align with the parenthesis. Furthermore, I want these to all align with this parenthesis. And you know, if I went further, I could even test that this aligns with this parenthesis. Okay. So let me clear out, well, actually the faster way to do this is usually boom, 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 boom. Oh, finally! I've been hoping to catch this bug for a while. Something went wrong. Ooh, it's something with the memory system. Huh. Alright, so what went wrong? Or like, what actually are we trying to do? We're trying to do an allocation. String alloc copy. Why is this code all messed up? That's weird. But anyways, we're trying to allocate a copy of a string. The memory got corrupted at some point along the way. Oh, it's this delayed action nonsense. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I was hoping to kill that all soon. Well, it's too bad that this is a memory allocation corruption thing, because that means that I can't really hope to catch it by just looking at what's here, because obviously what's going on is we got this bubble here, and prev is totally messed up. It has a good next pointer, but why is this? What is 2020, 2020, 20? What does that mean? buffer overflow. Seems like it must be buffer overflow. For some reason there's an array of a bunch of 32s. Not sure what all these 32s even mean though. Would be kind of nice to know that. So here's what I generally do to figure this out, right? This address here got written to. The nice thing about having written my own memory allocation system, let's switch this over to watch 2, because, well, can we undo that? No, you can't undo that. Let's just grab a new copy of that address. So this is the address of the whole bubble, and I'd like a copy of that. Let's move over to this one so I don't interfere with the indent debug watches that I've got set up. So that address got written to. So now the goal is to try to deduce, if we can, what bubble exists in the address before this. Unfortunately, the previous, which would have told us, got overwritten, which suggests that previous shouldn't be the first pointer in the bubble, now that I think about it. If you put the pointers at the end of the bubble, they'd be least likely to get overwritten. You'd still need some method of detecting. You'd want to detect corruption like on the frame that it happens, which I should have a thing set up for. I don't know why it did, but I must have deleted that at some point when I took out the old debug stuff. But once that's in there, it would, in theory, still be able to test the flags and test the what's the word, the size, and make sure that they're correct. But it would never corrupt the next previous pointer unless it just totally overwrote the whole thing, which would still happen. But like, right, a lot of times it just overwrites like 8 bytes or 4 bytes or 1 byte even, right? So not corrupting your pointers would make it easier to identify which bubble came before this one. Okay. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. Seems like that would be a really smart thing you could do, actually. If you kept track of the order of bubbles, you would just always know which one was most likely to cause the corruption of this one, because it's always overflow in C++ and C land. Buffer, memory mismanagement, memory corruption, it's always buffer overflow. Like 100% of the time that this happens to me, it's buffer overflow. Anyways, let's start with the general memory struct. See if we can work this out. Can't be too hard. Here's the sentinel. Alright, so all we do is each step through, we look at this address here, and we compare it to that one there. So we're about 17,000 hexadecimal numbers too small. Okay, still about 17,000 hexadecimal numbers too small. Still, actually, a lot of these will be kind of small at first because the stupid clipboard gets allocated on the system haphazardly still. There we go, there's 8,000. Let me copy this. Paste. It doesn't work. You'd think you could copy this cell and it would move the reference to the thing, and you could copy that cell and it would move just the value, but that is not the case. There's A, B, 13,000, so that's getting pretty close. 14,000, 15,000, 16,000. Hey, here it is. So this guy right here, you are the culprit. Let's pull you down again. Alright, so this bubble right here, whatever it is, it's type 2. it wrote 8 bytes beyond what it was supposed to. Now let me really quickly take a look at what this bubble actually contains in it. Right, so I'll paste that right there. It'll give me all this nonsense, which is fine, whatever. I just want the address right there. Thank you. And then char star of this address here. Let's look at how big is this? In the size, it's 4096. Let's look at 4096 plus, I forget how big, that's 816. It's probably 120, wait, 16, that would be 4 each, right? Okay, 4, 8, 32, so it's a total of 32? 32 bytes large. Or, yeah, so 32 plus 496, plus 8 more, so 40 plus 4096 plus 32 plus 8 more, 4136. Alright. So the first few bytes here are all the bubble header. Here's the first real one. After that, what we're containing is not all just 32s. So this is someone's useful data, and then there's a bunch of zeros after that. So it looks like someone probably cleared to 0 at some point. And then here's some extra stuff. These 4, wait, those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those 8 are all the extra stuff that shouldn't have ever been written. Why are there a bunch of 32s and a 10 at the end of a bunch of zeros anyway? Who would have written that? That's weird. Okay, well, there's another clue, which is this type. It's type 2. So this is a list of line starts. A bunch of spaces. Popcorn, you're onto something. Those were a bunch of spaces. I totally missed that. They're just a bunch of spaces. And do you know who writes out spaces? I can tell you who writes out spaces and new lines. Whitespace editors. Right? The whitespace editing system writes out spaces. Peculiar. Okay, so here's what I know so far. This information up here, if I were to grab a copy of, well, this I can actually copy because it'll let me open that. If I grab a copy of that and I switch to, let's see, I want to skip the first 32, and then these are all ints, and then there's 1,024 of them. What? Is 32 the wrong size? 816 plus 8 plus 8, that should be 32. Starting from 32. Yeah, those are really big for line starts, huh? Is this bubble actually in use? Yeah, it's an allocated bubble. That's a pointer, that's a pointer, that's a bunch of flags, that's the 4096, that's the 2, that's the 0. And then these are supposed to be line starts, but they're just way crazy. Line starts. Would they be shorts? Would that even make any difference? How could they even be shorts? They're definitely not shorts. Let's see. Let's type 2. So I can do something else. What I can do is I can take a copy of this, add 32, and then I can convert 32 in my head to hexadecimal because it's not, I don't want to, here we go. So we'll take a copy of this in hexadecimal. You can't copy these things for some reason, so I'll just do it this way, and then we can switch back out of hexadecimal, delete that, and then this here represents what? Oh, okay, so I took out too much information. Okay, ADC, I'm just going to do it in my head. So 16 is a 1 here, so that's just plus 2, so EF. There we go. So this right here is the address that some buffer somewhere in the world should be storing a pointer to. Models. Working set. Used Sentinel. Okay. One of these guys, there should only be a couple of them. How many are there? There's 3 files total. Let's look at file arrays. Files. Pull that one out. I think there's like 4 of these that are relevant. Maybe allocating them the other direction. That is true. Alright, so can't shortcut it that much. We can look through the nodes though. Use Sentinel. Next. If I take you as an editing file, what is your name? Autotab.cpp. Are you the one that's messed up? Seems most likely because you're the one we've been editing. Okay. So this is the file that that we were editing. It's the autotabs file. So ID. It's got a name. Preload state. Yes. And in there should be a buffer. And there should be line starts. 15 ABC, ADC. That's not right. Line width 16 AFC. What's the one that's messed up? 16 AFC. Huh. line widths. Did I read this wrong? 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. Maybe there's that might be okay. Line bubble widths, bubble starts. Yeah. Okay, so here, right here, there's a bug in the code. That should be bubble widths, and it's obviously not. New lines, line starts, new lines, blah, 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 bubble widths. So yeah, right there is the only time where it happens, but that looks like it's where we first allocate the line widths. So it is a line widths array, not a line starts array, which explains why the ints were all messed up, but why the zeros were still zeros. It's because they're actually floats. Other than that, though, this doesn't explain why there's a bunch of spaces at the end. Okay, so that mystery is solved. Just got a bug right there. Of course, the only thing is if I change this, it'll mess up Visual Studio a little bit, but I'm just going to change it and not save anything. Okay, time to keep going. So that's a nice little thing to catch. So if that's the line widths, then up here, where do I have this? Yes, this should be float. So those right there are the well, all of this really is the bubble header, and this is the first real line, and that's measurements of the actual width of each line down to how many lines? Down to here, right? Some of these might be lines that got deleted or something, but anyway, and then down here, what does it look like? It shouldn't. I'm imagining it looks like garbage. No, I need to add 2 more to this so that I can see it actually. Yeah, it doesn't really illuminate the issue at all. Yeah. So whatever is there is completely unrelated to line widths, I'm guessing, because one sec. This is 32, 4. How many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 124 should be 132 plus 2, 134. Alright, so that's how long it actually is. I miscalculated how big the bubble header should be in terms of ints. But yeah, so that is right there. This is the pointer that got corrupted, and it has nothing to do with floats. It's most likely something to do with spaces being written in the wrong place, but it's weird that they got written here. It's weird that they got written there. It's very weird. Okay, so we're not done yet. There's still more that I can pull out of this. So this right here, the line widths, the counts are in sync. This is the line widths array. It messed stuff up. There's that. Did anything else get close to 17B1C? You know, actually, maybe this line width array didn't cause the problem. So the undo string here starts at 17b1c. That's kind of close, don't you think, to... So that would suggest that the one that got corrupted, this one up at the top here, 17 AFC, which we actually have over here, I believe. Let me come over here. It's a type it's, oh, I can't even tell if it's allocated. I don't recognize that as a useful thing. 17C1D, what type is this size? Well, this is just an unallocated gigantic chunk, so this is the most recently allocated thing. Interesting. So what I'm starting to suspect is maybe there was some kind of backwards over, like underrun on the buffer that was for writing spaces out, and that was this buffer here, and it corrupted its own self. But why would it not corrupt the whole thing? Well, the weird thing is it's the right number of spaces too, and okay, so I want to see if I come down here, I can look at the file again. So the buffer does not have undo information, but this has undo information. And you have an undo string that starts there, and undo edits, no, they're not related. What about your other guys? Do they have undo strings that start in useful locations? No. Okay, so it's just potentially you, 17B1C. Now, the one that got was 17AFC. B1C. If I added 32 to that, I would get B1C. Yeah, so this is the buffer that's got corrupted right here. You can see it's got a bunch of spaces, first thing. So it's supposed to be 42 spaces. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, what you doing? Come on here. No, that's not what I want. You. Copy. No, no! Okay. You. Okay, now it's actually doing, I just realized it's doing exactly what I've always wanted it to do. Somehow, just weird. Looked like it was just doing something random, but so yeah, there's 42 spaces there. No, Popcorn, I didn't fix the corruption. All I fixed was the thing that labels the bubble type. I was labeling a widths type as a starts type, but all that is there for is for debugging. It doesn't like help it to do any of logic, right? So the corruption moment I still haven't pinpoint at all. But what I have discovered is that the buffer that actually got corrupted has a bunch of spaces in it too, which I find suspicious. I think it means someone somewhere was writing spaces out, and they got carried away and wrote some spaces in sort of a buffer underflow type situation. So that would actually, okay, so hold on. Make batch edit. We'll make batch, there we go. So it could be in here, because this is actually in charge of writing out spaces. Still not sure where the new line came from, though. So that's very weird. But This does write out spaces. It writes out to this place called string. That came from the partition. That shouldn't have anything to do with anything. Okay, but after that, that gets passed to here. We push more stuff on the array. File compute white space edit. Alright, this does use general memory, it looks like. So let's see. Buffer. Edit, inverse array. So that right there does the work of making an inverted version. Children, is that the one that's fucked up? No, it's just regular undo that got all messed up. So where is that? Is that in there? No, this is just pushing onto the children arrays. And that wouldn't have caused anything, right? That was way off at 77 BDC. Strings, edits, yeah, doesn't look related. But why does undo end up having spaces in it then? This has a bunch of spaces that actually had to get written for the edit to happen. So that's writing a bunch of spaces, but I'm looking for where we write spaces to undo. Where would I have written spaces just to undo? Did I ever... Oh, I was manually deleting... Yeah, I manually deleted a lot of spaces, right? Which would have put those on the undo string. So it might not have anything to do with this, it would just be interesting. Okay, so I feel like that's about as far as I can push this investigation here. So what I want to do is this needs to be saved, and I need to go implement a heap check thing again. Not sure why it's even gone, really. Guess there's nothing in here checking the size of these things. So at each point, I grab a bubble pointer. I look at the next and I say, if the next is not the sentinel, check that all these things come in order. Check that oh, so that's how I'm checking the size. I've right there. Yeah, so if the size was wrong, that would okay. So now all I gotta do is find general memory check. It's nowhere in here. Okay. What I want to do is say that as a general rule, every single time we run, let's do a general memory check on, I don't know if general is just in scope or not, but I want to assert that so that it's only in builds that do assert type things. General memory, general. Alright. $4603, what are you talking about? Okay, wrong file, genius. 4603. Stupid. General memory check. Yes, so what happened was I was over here trying to kill out all this, and so I was executing kills like so. None of those caught it. If I undo some of them, and then save, and then do them all again in a different order. It's not catching anything. What if I trigger this thing, trigger it, right? And then start killing rectangles again. Yeah. Damn. It doesn't trigger too often, this bug, so I feel like I made some progress figuring out what's going on there, but I don't have it totally nailed down. And I feel like it's always triggers or when I'm doing roughly similar activities. Like I can feel like there's some consistency to when it triggers. But that's, you know, still not good enough when it doesn't trigger all the time. Okay, so anyways, didn't quite catch it. Got close. Now there's a mem check thing in there, so next time I find a way to reproduce it, I should be able to finish that one off. Let's see, 1 second. Gotta do some quick Twitch management stuff that I don't know how to do from XChat. Is there anyone in the chat who can be a mod right now? Ah, cool. So insofar as you're the moderator, and you just go ahead and ban hair trigger is the rule, so you know anything fishy, don't really care, as long as they're not showing up here for more than a few times and distracting me. Shouldn't be an issue. Awesome. Okay. Now with that done, I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope actually. I was just trying to think about what to do next. Maybe I was just distracted, but I don't know. That might be all I can do today. I feel like the indent thing is pretty good though, right? I mean, did I leave any? Oh, I haven't actually got the space thing working. Yes, 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 let's do that. That'll be fun. So I want to get the space indenting to the parentheses to work. Okay, so the cool part hasn't even happened yet, so we can't end yet. The cool part is whenever we see, when we're in here, right, so this is the part that does, right now, figures out what this indent should be, but this part here does other stuff. Instead of these old rules for parentheses, what we're going to do is say, look, if we're parsing along, and we see parenthesis open, what we're going to do is we're going to take the indent state, we're going to increment parent nesting by 1, and if we see a close, we're going to decrement parent nesting by 1, and then when we increment parent nesting, what we're going to do is we're going to say parent nesting equals, and now this part's a little bit fascinating. We want to now anchor to where this parenthesis would be were it indented correctly, right? So that's kind of an interesting concept. And the way I think to do that is It's actually tricky, because if it's a line like one of these that needs the extra stuff on this indent, how do we do? How do we do that? Man. So that'll already be accounted for. What was all this? This is checking if the previous token, is any of these things. We don't do it, otherwise that. Okay, so there's. Okay, that's the only part that super much matters. I think this part is for accounting for something we don't actually care about, and this part shouldn't ever come up. Like, just in general, this should only ever happen if the token flags does not say that we're in a preprocessor body. Oh shoot, we're gonna need a stack for the parent. Oh man, for the parent anchor indent thing needs a stack. Wow, that's fancy. So indent parent anchor indent parent nesting equals blah blah blah. You up there, you need to take the parent nesting amount, subtract 1, there is your indent, and now the parent anchor indent, let's say that we can handle up to, like, I don't know, 16 levels of parenthesis nesting. Seems like plenty. And we'll just assert, I don't want to assert, we'll say that we'll just accept indentation bugs after that, and by that what I mean is we'll only process this if the nesting level here is less than 16. We'll actually store it, otherwise yeah, otherwise we'll just throw away that information. And then up here we'll do something like level equals, take the parent nesting, level, boom. If the level, that shouldn't say 16, that should say array count on this array here. Same thing with this up here. If this is greater than or equal to this, then level equals that minus 1. Okay. That seems fine. Folgs, you're right. Totally misspelled the word flags. 2453. Parent anchor, parent nesting. Right, so now we gotta compute this, which we're gonna get wrong, but we're gonna get close to correct. But we're gonna get it wrong. Just so we're clear. Actually, we're gonna get it really wrong. Maybe we should compute this indent for every token after all, and then just only use it on the useful ones. Or I wonder if we can pull the this indent computation out into a function. That's what we'll end up doing. Because then this part here, yeah, that'll work. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Oh yeah, here we go. So, where does this go? Well, it needs to go at, basically, okay, we need a few things. We need to know the line or character position of this particular token. So we need to take the token start. We need to know, we have a line I, right? But that doesn't tell us the line we're actually on. So we need to know which line we're on, which is get line buffer get line index buffer t.start. And then we can do start equals buffer line starts line, and then if we take t.start minus start, that gives us where this character kind of goes, except we now need to subtract the number of characters we need to subtract the number of characters or 4 times or plus 3 per tab, you know. Subtract that and then add in the this indent we'll get from the function over there. But let's one thing at a time here. Let's start with char pose right there, right? And that's totally wrong, but I just want to fill that in. Is anything else not building right now? 2474. Okay, that's 1474. What? What? Oh, we're missing a open brace there. There we go. Awesome. So now let's go pull out this indent thing. Alright. Alright, so I just come up with a function that doesn't really make any, do anything yet, right? And I say, where's all the code that I want to simulate? And here it is. Everything except for this. I don't want to simulate that. That is about something else. Yes. But all this I want to simulate. boom, 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 boom. And then I just pretend like I can go, oh, there we go, just call that function, and hopefully it'll all just kind of work itself out, right? Hopefully, that's how it works, right? No, not at all. Now I have to tell it all these tokens that it wants to see. So here is T, here is prev token, and now I can probably go back to a sane naming scheme there, 2288. This line start. You want to know where this line starts. Are you going to want to know where next line starts? You are going to want to know that. You tricky bastard. Alright, that's fine. We can make this happen. This line start. Next line start. We can make it happen. 2289. Line I. Line start. That's a problem. But it's one I think we can ignore. And here's how. By just totally ignoring it. Okay. Yes, I'll have to pass in the indent parse state, and aren't you glad I went ahead and pulled that into a struct once I started suspecting that something like this might happen in the future? Because I sure am. There's a lot of parameters on this one. I feel like cleaning this out will do actually a lot to improve the stability of the system. But for now, let's just get the sort of nasty raw copy paste version of this function up and running. So it needs the indent T prev token. It needs this line start. It needs next line start. It needs line I, line start, indent marks, and it needs the tab width. So there we go. 2337. And you want me to return this indent there. Okay, I'm going to be right back. I need to use the bathroom first. Alright. I'm gonna stop the stream and start it again. Be right back.